I'm Allie. Join me as I show you how to make these peyote tubes, which you can do in so many different styles. And I'm on a kick of making all of these different things to hang down from my new Huggy earrings. So join me in learning how to make lines as well as diagonals for your peyote tubes out of 11 seed beads. If you need any materials, go ahead and look below the video to get links to the Huggies as well as to our seed beads. So we're gonna go over working with tubes. It's really easy to do these peyote tubes, and I want to just give that refresher class on how to do tubes in a design. Now you can obviously do anything with them. We're just doing earrings, and I wanted to show how to get lines and how to get stripes out of your design. So you can see here the silver and gold. If you spin it, you get a continuous line of that silver and gold. This one here, you can see the 2 by 2 and then a longer middle 2 by 2. So how do you get these designs? You can use our graph paper, which we have on the PotomacBeads site, and I would recommend using a couple of different colors. You can do different heights, but we're gonna do 12 rows long. This one here is 14, this one is 16. We're gonna want an equal number of beads. The first thing we are going to do is get some thread and needle going. I have a size 10 English beading needle and some size 6 dragon thread for this. You can use 6 or 8. And I'm just going to recreate this one right here, showing you first stripes, and then we'll look at how to do the diagonals as well. And I'm just going to pour out a tiny little bit of each. This is a great kind of stash buster. If you have just that tube left with a tiny couple beads left in it, this one is great because you really do not use that many beads at all for it. So contrasting colors will help you because you can see this one and the different colors a lot better than the silver and gold. So contrasting colors will help you to learn how to do this. We are doing basic peyote stitch, and I'm going to add a bead onto my thread and needle that is not part of my project. You can certainly do this with delicas. Anna did some with the sorbet bracelet. If you want to check that one out, we'll link to that as well. And we are going to again be doing 14 beads tall. So however many beads you put on your first section here of your thread and needle is going to be the height of your tube. So I'm going to repeat this where I'm doing 2 of my green to get my green along the bottom, 2 of my bronze, then we're going to do 6 purples. And you can see I'm doing these in even numbers. That just makes it easier to create and you don't get kind of the zigzag line. You can get really, really creative with these. We're going to frame out the purple with 2 more bronze and then 2 more green, and we're going to let this drop. This is now the height of your tube. If you want to go bigger, taller, you can certainly do that. I'm going to be doing both as 12 rows long. I think that's the best kind of way if you're just putting on a head pin, but you can make that interior diameter whatever size you want. From here, we're going to add another green. We're going to sew back through green number 1. So whatever color you're going into currently is the color that you're putting on. So I'm going into a bronze, so I'm going to pick up 1 bronze. We're skipping over the first bronze and we're going through the second bronze as we go down along the piece. So this here is going to get you that stair step look where you can see that 2 1 2 1 2 1. Bringing the camera in even closer here, we're going to get a little refocused and show it more in depth. Bead goes on, you're skipping over the first bead of that color and you're sewing through this second bead. Once you get the first 3 rows, which your first row is actually combined rows 1 and 2, and then this one here is row 3 that we're doing. Bead goes on, skip over the next purple and go into the second one. Bead goes on, skip over the next purple, go into the last purple bead. Now my next bead that I'm going to go into is my bronze bead in my line, so I want to add a bronze. Skip over bronze number 1, sew through bronze number 2. Skip over green number 1, sew into green number 2. And give a nice tight pull. This gets your peyote rows here established. Now you can keep going, make this straight, kind of up to you, lay it out just like that, and you can see that 2 1 2 1 2 1 pattern of them lining up. Now when I come back down the design, it's really, really simple. So originally we put on 2 greens because that was 2 rows at once, 2 bronze, 6 purples, 2 and 2. Our third row as we did it, you can see we did 1 green, 1 bronze, 3 purples, 1, 1. As we continue, it's going to be the same. So you're going to take your 1 green and sew into the green that already you just added in row 3. 1 bronze, sew into the bronze that you added in row 3. See how it becomes really, really simple to see which beads you need to sew into because they're already sticking out. You're always sewing into the bead from the row that you added before. Bead goes on. If I want to change up the design, I can certainly change up the design, adding in a speckle or a line here in the middle with 2 different colors. I want to challenge you to make some of these. And if you're coming to our bead retreat in October, stay tuned for an email about this project as well too. You can use delicas, you can use 8-ohs, you can use 11-ohs. I'm using 11-ohs because I like that rounded look. Delicas will get you much more of a tubular look. So now we've completed row 4, and you can see again, bead goes on in the color that you're going to sew into. You reverse your thread and needle and bring it back down. Bead goes on and back down. Now if you need to know what row you are on, you are going to count the last 2 of your beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm on row 5 because I do every other bead. You can also count on an angle when you get it to there, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that is currently the row that I'm working on. If I count down here, 1, 2, 3, 4, you notice I haven't completed this row. So I'm somewhere in the middle of row 5. I'm gonna go in and make this a total of 12 rows long, and then we're gonna roll it over and show you how to seam up the tube as well. Once you have 12 rows wide, that's where we're gonna roll it and make it into a tubular shape. Now if you want to, you can even just keep going, make a matching bracelet to your earrings or have fun kind of creating. Now, here is the thing to think about. You wanna count your rows just to make sure you've got 12. I'm gonna count the green beads on a diagonal, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I've got 12. I need an even number of rows. Why? Why can't I do 11? It's not going to line up like a puzzle piece and fit together. See how row number 1 there, first line, has a bead out on the left. Row number 2 has a bead out on the right. Row number 3 to the left, row number 4 to the right. What that's going to do is the magic of rolling this together is these are going to fit in perfectly like puzzle pieces inside of one another. So I'm coming out the top of row 11 after having finished row 12 there. I'm going to take my thread and needle, go into the top, because it's coming out of the top, I'm going into the top of the first bead in that row, that same row. From here then, I have a little loop of thread. As I pull, that pulls that into a round tube. I'm not going to pull tightly, normally I would, but I'm going to have that sit up a little bit. Now we're at the start. We're on the side with the stop bead, and we're going over to the opposite side and going through the last bead in row 12. Then we're going through the second bead in row 1. Then we're going through the second bead of row 12. Third bead of row 1. And see how we're just literally seaming this or zippering it up. Every other bead here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this tightly so you can see that it's going to actually create a seamless effect. See, now I'm halfway through, and if you look at it, you cannot tell where we started or ended the peyote. You can also tell that sometimes this is like a fun little hat. It can go on to designs. This is how you get different shapes and how you can get different ideas with the peyote stitch. From here, you're going to continue back to the left, then to the right, then to the left, then to the right. You can see I'm sewing under that thread just so it goes kind of to the back. Left, right, coming out of row 2, go back into row 1. And then look, ready? We're going to pull nice and tight, and that is completely closed up, that little barrel. Now, if you want to, you can pull off your stop bead, and your thread and needle is coming right off next to that stop bead. Tie a little knot here. I like to close up the unit here. So these two beads, the last 2 beads in that row, aren't really attached yet. Coming out of the end, you're right at your stop bead. You're going to reverse through that bead the opposite direction. So the thread's basically coming out of the same bead, one on towards the interior, one towards the exterior. What I like to do then is take my thread, my starter thread, and force it through. You can put a needle on here too if you want. Force it through one of those last beads and out. And then with our green thread and our green beads here, we're going to tie a knot that you're not going to be able to see at all. So right there, if you know that you're going to cover up the ends, you can certainly do the knot on the ends. But here towards the interior, there's 2 green beads. It closes up the loop there in the tube. Give it a knot. And closed it is. Burn this down. And your 11-0 peyote tube is all finished. Can't tell where we started, can't tell where we ended. It's a nice seamless little round. Now what I'm going to do is line my beads up and get ready to show you how we start to do our diagonals if you want that nice diagonal look to it as well. Now we're getting ready to do our diagonal lines, and you can see the silver and gold here just has that nice color mix, and if you spin it, that line of the diagonal goes the whole way through. So how are we achieving that? I'm going, the last one was 14 high, this one is 16 high. 2 silver, 2 gold, 2 silver, 2 gold, ending with 2 silvers. When you're coming out of the top, we're going to start the next row color. So it's going to be gold is our next row, and we're going to sew down through silver number 2. As we're sewing down toward the stop bead, you are going to add the color of bead that you're currently sewing out of. So if I'm coming out of the silver, I know I'm going to add a silver as I sew towards that stop bead. Skip over bead number 1 of the next color set of 2 and sew through bead number 2. Add your next bead, skip over the first silver, add, or go through the second silver. Coming out the silver, add another silver, go into the second gold. So you're seeing how you're getting that line or that effect as you're working with it coming down the project. And this is again going towards the stop bead. You are going to add the color bead that you're currently coming out of. So if I'm coming out of a silver, I add a silver and go through the second of the gold. Coming out of the gold, I add a gold, go through the second one of the silver. Now, when I reverse here, going away from the stop bead to continue the line and just that diagonal, what I'm going to do now is add the bead that I'm sewing into. So I'm coming out of the silver, but I need to add a gold because I want that gold line to continue. So I'm adding a gold, adding a gold, sewing through a gold. Adding a silver, sewing into a silver. So towards your stop bead, you're sewing through and you're adding whatever bead your thread is currently coming out of. When you go away from the stop bead the other direction, you're adding whatever bead color you're sewing into. If I'm sewing into a gold, I add a gold. If I'm sewing into a silver, I add a silver. Sewing into the gold, I add a gold. Always at the top, we're starting another line. So you're always going to reverse color. So I'm coming out of the gold, I know I have to add a silver, and I'm sewing into the gold, and now, whatever color I'm coming out of, I continue. Coming out of the gold, add a gold, because I'm going back towards my stop bead again. That's going to continue getting those lines of your silver and gold along your project, and we're going to go 12 long, just like we did for this guy here. With this pattern, once you have 12 rows wide, you can see that your line is basically completed. You have your 2 silvers down here that as we wrap will end that silver line there, the 2 golds here that will end that silver line. So we're going to turn it here on the side, and you can see when you do the 12 rows and you do this pattern, whether or not you do 2 high, 5 high, anything like that, you're going to get that nice continuous line of the mixed metals. I'm going to go down and seam this up, going back to first bead, second bead, and you can see a little bit now. When I work on this, I actually turn it to the side. I hold a little bit to the side, and then I'm sewing through the beads. You can see I'm just pinching it. Sew through both of the silver beads at once, from the left and the right. Sew through both of the gold beads at once, left and right. Both of the silver beads at once, left and right. So again, when it comes to these, you can make them whatever circumference you want, meaning however many rows wide you want, however tall you want. That's completely up to you as well. And then when you get to the top here, you can either bring it down. I did the other one where I just did it really, really easily and simply because I knew I was going to put a bead near it, where I just grabbed the thread end, the wire coming out, or the thread coming out of the last row, and just literally tied together, right over left, left over right here. Take your thread zap or your thread burner, and just like we did before, burn that down and close to the project. That finishes up how to get the lines and how to get the diagonals. Now, like I said, you can certainly go crazy and do different color lines, make it a rainbow line if you want to. Have fun, and I'm excited to see in our Facebook group, so please share exactly how you're doing this. Once I have it done, I'll show you with my bronze pair here. I'm using a 4mm bead. That fits really well at the end of these tubes because they're a little bit bigger than 4mm in circumference when you're using the 11 O's. I put a tube on the, or a bead on the top, bead on the bottom. I'm gonna go in with my round nose pliers. You can certainly coil if you want to, or just do a turned over loop, up to you. And that finishes up your peyote tube. There you go. Now I can attach this to whatever ear wire I want, do whatever designs, or even take off your Huggy earring, make the loop big enough. You can even make a loop that's big enough to fit over and have the seed beads along the side too. Or I'm just gonna hang this one down right from my Huggies using some silver head pins here, some gold beads at the top and the bottom, and go in and then turn around and make it to hang from my Huggy. Lots and lots of different options. Oh, here's my gold bead that I was missing. Go ahead in here, make that loop nice and large to go around the Huggy earring, making sure that it fits here. Just taking that last little bit of wire, wrapping that around. You won't have any to waste. Grabbing a needle nose pliers here and pinching down. Once you have that, go on in, put on your Huggy, and allow it to hang. So many different tube options, and I like just giving you the ideas and doing a trip back to this basic design, showing how, as a lot of you become more educated beaders through these lives, how to make different designs and actually enhance your skills. Thanks so much for joining in these fun little Huggy peyote tube earrings. Remember, you can have them at all different lengths. You can put them on, off, you can make them longer, make a necklace out of them, and really have fun creating and doing different designs. This is just the beginning. Make sure to post your pictures in our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. Also, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss anything from us here at Potomac Beads. Thanks so much for watching, Potomac Beaders, and stay tuned for more inspirational designs.